Susie, your show is such a personal journey. What inspired you to bring your story to the stage in this way?
Well, I guess I'd had the opportunity to share my story a couple of times. I had written it, and understanding the impact that has, because we all have a story, and when we have that shared experience or experiences of our life, it can have a profound effect. And I decided that it was probably a good idea to put it on stage and with music.
You take us back to your childhood in suburban Salisbury. What were some of those early dreams, and how did the glamour of 1950s Hollywood shape them?
Well, I loved watching those movies, everything of the costume and the actual glamour of it all. Often they had dance sequences, which I would always find really exciting. And just such a different world to mine. I think it was inevitable that was going to come out somewhere later on. But as far as my dreams go, I think really, in reality, I had no idea how me, little Susie growing up in Salisbury, daughter of Macedonian migrants, could possibly be anything like that. But it certainly didn't stop me from dreaming about it, yeah.
As the daughter of Greek Macedonian migrants, were there cultural expectations or limitations you had to overcome to follow your path?
Oh, absolutely. This was not on the radar at all. And when very first time I told my mother I was even joining a band to become a singer, she said, "You sing a girl, I come into where you're singing and pull you down off the stage." Yeah, it was not that was not an idea of what a good Macedonian girl grows up to be.
What role did music play for you growing up? Was it an escape, a calling, or both?
Yeah, I would definitely say it was there all the time. My brothers and sisters were very much into music, and my parents were. So we had the Macedonian music going on, and we had the whatever the hits were of the day. Big part of my life, and I would say the calling was quite deep, or not. Maybe repressed is what it was, because I just didn't see how I could be that. But it was certainly alluring, absolutely, yeah.
This show has been described as cabaret for the soul. What do you hope audiences take away from it?
I hope that they feel inspired to do their thing, because that's a big part of my story, is overcoming, because I talk about cultural taboos, but it wasn't just cultural, it was my own stuff about not being good enough, and I think that's universal and across genders, because I also thought this was a woman's story, and so I hope that they feel inspired, and certainly I hope they're entertained at the very least.
There's a beautiful arc in your story, from longing and struggle to joy and empowerment. Was there a turning point moment in your life where it all shifted?
Well, probably a couple, actually. There was one where I had actually been doing some personal development, and that gave me the kind of courage to kind of go, I'm gonna do this thing. I really want to be a singer. And it just getting rid of some of my stuff, I guess. That was definitely one point. And maybe even just before that was when I saw the movie A Dead Poets Society, and that inspired me to seize the day. So that was another turning point. I guess there was a third turning point when I started my own band, and that felt very different. Once again, to just being a backing singer, which is I love doing, and it's fantastic, but it felt like I was then more in control of the trajectory of where my life was going, as a as an artist.
How does it feel to look back now with all you've lived, all you've sung, at the girl who once dreamed from a suburban backyard?
Well, it feels fantastic. It was fantastic to be doing it. The first time I did the show, stood on that stage, and it was like, yeah, it's taken me a long time to get to this point, but just such a fantastic feeling to be living my dream. Well, I'm so lucky to have these fantastic musicians. I have Tim Bowen, who plays the upright bass, and there's one particular song we do, just him and me together, and he uses a bow to play it. It's just divine, and he's just such a magnificent player. And this time around for the show, I have Dave McAvoy, keyboard, on as my musical director, and again, such a well-known here in Adelaide and beyond. Such an accomplished musician, but such a beautiful musician. Whenever he plays, I sometimes get lost in listening to what he's doing and forget to come back in. Well, almost forget to come back in. Need to redo that bit, I think.
For those who've never experienced your work before, why should they come and see this show?
Why should they come? Because they will be entertained, and they'll laugh and cry, and it's all original songs, it's all original script. You know, that doesn't happen that often, and I think that they will get something from it themselves. It'll be the themes in the show, I think, relate to a lot of people. Themes of not being good enough, or feeling like you're not good enough, not actually not being good enough. I think so many of us struggle with that, and it holds us back in life. And what I want more than anything else, that people feel like they might feel inspired to go and do their thing.
And finally, Souzi, what does it mean to you to be standing in your truth, sharing your voice, and lighting the stage on fire on your own terms?
It feels great. It feels fantastic, and I feel like at this point in my life to be doing that is so satisfying. And also, I love that I feel like, you know, even say it in my story, being a role model for my daughter, or for other young women to know that you can do it, and what you have to say is important. However, whatever way you choose to do that. Yeah, so I feel like I'm really grateful to be here doing this show at this point in my life.
So now, looking back, what would you say to your younger version of yourself who used to watch those movies and, you know, dream about what she could be? What would you say to her today?
I would say to her, you need to worry less about what other people think. Like, really a lot less. That most of the time people aren't even looking at you or thinking about you, one. And two, their life, what they're doing has no bearing on what you're doing in your life. And so stop worrying about whether you're good enough or smart enough or whatever. Do what you've got to do to get to where you need to go. But don't let anybody else's ideas or negative impact, that's not the right word I want to use.
Okay. So now that you're this far into your journey, right, so 30 years on, more than 30 years on, but we just want to think about that little girl at Mum and Dad's place in Salisbury who had these aspirations and dreams about being a performer. So what would you tell her today, that 10-year-old girl? What would you tell her now that you want to share with her?
I would tell little Souzi to just go ahead and do it. Stop worrying about what other people think or what other people say. You do what you want to do, and know that you're enough, that you've got what it takes. It's it's up to you, and you've got to make that choice, and just don't worry about what anybody else thinks or says. Just do it.